Alright, this is John Cullen with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we'll be using the all-new, just-released THICKEST Backspin Vacuum Blender to make a juice. Now, vacuum juicing is the best way to make juicers, and I'll tell you guys that straight up. I've been selling juicers now since 1998 and have been juicing myself for 30 years. And when I first experienced vacuum juicing, actually at BlendTech in Utah, I was just like blown away, like, wow, I've been selling slow juicers all these years, and vacuum juicing is really the next level, thanks to Tom Dickson, who enlightened me that, yeah, that famous guy who made those videos, will it blend and blend iPhones and all kinds of other crazy things. Nonetheless, you know, vacuum juicing can be problematic because you need to take the fruit or vegetable you're juicing, chop it up into little bits, pulse your blender, or maybe you could press the auto button like on the THICKEST DynaPro, link down below to that video. And it can be very problematic because if you don't have enough liquid or watery fruits or vegetables, the vacuum blender won't blend up because all blenders rely on liquid to get things to blend until now. And that's why we got the THICKEST Backspin. This blender is unique and different. Let me explain to you guys real quick because most of you guys haven't seen this before. Basically, this has two chambers. So we have an outer lid, an inner lid, and then inside here we have that blade. You guys can see I can spin the blade around. But besides the blade, we have an inner chamber. So this inner chamber spins around this direction, right? While the blade is spinning the other direction. What this causes is like, you know, going the wrong way on the freeway, right? Hopefully that never happened to anybody. But if you go the wrong way on the freeway, you're gonna crash into all the people going the right direction. Think about it, a traditional blender, everybody is going the right direction on the freeway, right? And that's a good thing on the freeway, right? But when you're blending, if everybody's going the right direction, that means that unless there's enough liquid in there, right, things aren't gonna get blended. Whereas with this blender, because this is going the opposite direction, this is going the right direction, it causes food impact and things that get blended up that couldn't otherwise be blended previously. You know, in my unboxing video, link down below to that, you can see how I make a nut butter using half macadamia nuts, half cashews. Turns into the most creamiest nut butter with no scraping down the sides, no tamper, no nothing. I literally press the button and walk away and let the machine do all the work. Also, of course, in that episode, I also process frozen fruits into the thickest frozen fruit sorbet without the oxygen under vacuum, so you don't have the oxidation or all the air fluffed into the mixture, so it melts slower and has a much, you know, denser and better mouth feel. Of course, this machine can also make amazing smoothies. A matter of fact, the thickest smoothies that I've ever experienced myself, link down below to that video, where I make a green smoothie that's super thick, as well as a super thick fruit smoothie that almost wouldn't even pour out of the blender. It was that thick. That is truly what the THICKEST Backspin can do. It can blend even the thickest mixtures because it does not rely on the liquid like all blenders before it to get things to blend up. So that's why some of you guys out there said, John, how can it do vacuum juicing? So I'm going to juice literally a whole head of celery I just bought yesterday, and we're going to find out to see how it does vacuum juicing without cutting the celery into little small bits. Also, to remind you guys, this has a full 900 watt motor, so it's actually quite powerful. The carafe is measured up to 1800 milliliters, which is the maximum fill line. Depending on what you're processing, you should not fill it that high. In addition, it also is a vacuum blender, so it removes the air out of the container before blending, so you retain more nutrition, don't get all the dissolved oxygen in your blended mixture, so you won't have that gas and bloating due to swallowing all the extra air, and your smoothies won't taste literally like foam, which I just experienced the other day because I don't traditionally blend anymore myself, but was at a friend's house sharing with them the power of vacuum blending. And of course, to top this off, THICKEST puts their money where their mouth is, and they are confident in this product, and it will last. And it's literally a one-time investment, guys. It has a full 10-year warranty, which is even longer than the warranty on most Vitamix or even BlendTech or other high-end blenders on the market. All right, so let's go ahead and get this assembled. and let's get juicing. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole head of celery, and I think I'm going to chop it into thirds. We're going to chop it maybe right here at the stem end. We're going to chop it right here once. We're going to chop it right here, right? That's all I'm going to do, right? We're going to have to see if this blender is going to deal with these big, large pieces and turn it into literally a liquid. So once we got everything in there, we're going to put the inner lid on. We're going to go ahead and now seal the outer lid on. This is what allows you to get a good vacuum seal. We're going to go ahead and put the main lid down. Next up, you always need to hit, in my opinion, the vacuum button. This will cause the red light on the top to flash. This lets you know that the machine is now in vacuum mode. And before you press any of the automated buttons, which include the auto low, which runs for about 50 seconds, the auto button, which runs for about 2 minutes, and the auto high button that runs for about 4 minutes, it'll suck out the excess oxygen. You can blend without doing the vacuum function. That being said, the machine has it built in. I would say always do the vacuum function. I can't see any reason to not vacuum blend these days unless you actually want more air and froth put into your blended mixture. All right, so in this case we just got celery. It should be an easy job. We're just going to go ahead and press the auto low button once. What happens first is that this machine starts sucking the excess oxygen out of the carafe. After doing that, then what will happen is the machine will go into the blend mode. So I'm going to give you guys a close-up on what it looks like when it's blending. All right, so on the top it tells you like how much more vacuum needs to be done, so it kind of keeps lighting up the red lights until it gets around the circle, until it's at the max. Once it's all done vacuuming, then it'll start to blend up. Alright guys, so I did about a 50-second cycle, which I think probably could have been a little bit longer. So we're just going to go ahead and press the pulse button and just hold it down to manually pulse it to get it ground up even finer. When vacuum juicing, you want to try to get the pulp, broken down as finely as possible. That's going to make it a lot easier to get the juice out. Alright, I think we're pretty good. Next step is we're going to go ahead and now extract the juice out of this blended mixture. Let me show you guys what we got here. Alright, outer lid coming off, pretty much clean. Inner lid coming off. We definitely have some celery stuck on there. And you guys can see now this inside this container, literally we just got like a celery puree. This is not really a puree because we really didn't add any water. This is just basically just all the ground up celery stuck to the side. So actually I'm going to need to go ahead and grab a spatula to spatula this mixture out so I could juice it. So in order to vacuum juice, you'll need a few additional accessories. You'll need some kind of big bowl or pot. In this case, I'm using a 2-quart Anchor Hocking batter mixing bowl. And then you will need these things called Alexexas Bags. You could use any nut milk bags, but I always recommend the best products for you guys so you guys have the easiest time, hassle-free time, and more importantly, the easiest cleaning. These bags were actually invented by Tom Dickson himself, the guy that actually told me about vacuum juicing in the first place, right? These are the only BPA safe certified juicing bags, also good for nut milk. They're heat welded in the United States, no strings attached. So there's no like passageways where, pulp or nut pulp is gonna get clogged. It's designed by Alpha 71 engineers and you're gonna get the highest yields. I mean, the other thing I'll say is that this is oversized, so that makes it very easy. It has nice rounded corners so things don't get stuck in the corners, very important. And I think the most important thing for me on using this juice bag or nut milk bag over any other bag is the pore size, right? The pore size, if I like look through this, I could kind of see you, right? It's like, how big is that hole? Is it like super big or super small, right? Pore sizes on traditional press style juicers that use a cloth are very small. They're not this large. It keeps nutrients literally locked in to the fiber because it's not coming out the holes of the press cloth. Whereas this cloth, in my opinion, has the ideal size. It's not too big, which will then let like pieces of pulp in your juice, but not too small to hold back and restrict those nutrients, those phytonutrients, from flowing through the press cloth like press cloths from major $2,000 hydraulic juicers. All right, so if you guys want to get Alexexas bags, you can check them out at alexasbags.com. Alexexasbags.com, and of course they do have a 1-year free bag replacement guarantee. Like if you should break a bag, which actually I've never broken a bag yet. All right, so we're gonna just take this oversized bag and put it over the 2-quart Anchor Hocking mixing bowl, which it fits perfectly. It was literally designed to do this. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and take all our celery that we ground up in the backspin. We're gonna go ahead and remove the blade and shake the blade down. I always recommend you guys handle the blade from the top. Don't handle it from the blades, which are actually quite sharp. Then we're gonna go ahead and pour this mixture on. Look at that, we already got juice coming out. And we just got all the ground up celery coming right in. Once again, we didn't have to do any chopping, no pulsing. I mean, we literally ran this for 50 seconds. I guess in the future, I'd probably run it for double that. I'd probably just do the auto button, which would run it for about 2 minutes. And then we should probably be in really good shape to have the really nice consistency to extract the juice out. All right, guys, so what I found out is if you took the inner chamber out, it makes it a lot easier to dump it in because you can just hold the inner chamber without having to deal with the outer chamber. I will say there are some flutes in the chamber here, so like getting all the pulp out and squeezing it out, a little bit more challenging than a traditional blender that generally does not have all these flutes. I mean, blenders have regular flutes, but they're usually going up and down, whereas these are kind of going diagonal. So, I mean, I did a pretty good job at getting all the pulp out. All right, next up, let's go ahead and get all the pulp off the lid. I think the biggest piece that didn't get blended was that piece right there. Everything else looks like it's like pretty finely blended. I will give you guys a caveat that a traditional regular blender, right, in my opinion, would seem to get to a finer particle size than this. Once again, I did only run this for a 50-second pre-programmed cycle. And then I did hold down the pulse button a little bit longer. And once again, if I did run this longer, it may get it down to even a finer particle size. Of course, if you did add some kind of liquid or we're doing like celery with cucumbers, I surmise it would do a lot better because now you'd have the liquid. All right, so once we got all that in there, the next step is to juice. We're just gonna go ahead and pull this bag up. And as you guys can see, right, we are dripping celery juice out of the bag. This is actually a nice color celery juice, guys. It's not like turning brown or anything. It's really, look at this. I'm like literally squeezing out the juice. This is not rocket science. This does not take a lot of strength. Super simple, super easy to squeeze out the juice once you get it all ground up in the Backspin Blender. All right, guys, so when I'm squeezing out the rest of the juice and trying to get the last bit from the the pulp here, this is when it gets more hard. At the beginning, it literally just drips out. And of course, now I'm exerting a lot more effort for just like 5 more drips. So at some point, you gotta say to yourself, well, you know what, it's not worth it. That being said, if you want to put this in like a $2,000 press, you could probably get another ½ ounce. That being said, you'd also have to spend $2,000 on a press. You know, I find that person with a normal hand strength, and of course, this also increases your grip strength, a very important indicator for long-term health, according to some of the studies I've seen. It is a good thing. That being said, I know a lot of people, and Americans are not averse to doing any kind of work these days. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and shake this out. And I want to show you guys the pulp that we have left here that we were able to extract out the juice using the backspin, once again, without any kind of tamper, without doing anything. All right, so this is the celery pulp that we generated. I will definitely say that if I pick this up and squeeze it, I'm not squeezing out any juice. This pulp is drier than any other juicer out there except like a hydraulic 2-stage juicer, right? No juicer is going to get the pulp this dry. Also, I want to really comment on, look at the pulp. It's really broken down fairly well, and I will say that, when I use a traditional vacuum blender, the pulp is even more finely broken down, but this is quite a sufficient job in my estimation. So now we're going to go ahead and pour out our 100% celery juice. We have a nice tall glass of celery juice right here. Driest pulp, easiest time. Wow, that tastes absolutely delicious. Like way better than any juicer. The reason is we are grinding up more cell walls to a finer particle size, extracting more nutrition. We're doing it with the oxygen removed under vacuum, so we don't have the oxidation that can cause that off flavor on celery. Kind of tastes a little bit like metallic or a little bit bitter. So yeah, we made really good celery juice using the THICKEST Backspin Blender. It was definitely a success. Alright guys, so the second juice recipe that we'll be making today is a green juice. For the base of the green juice, we're going to be using 1 English cucumber. And then the next ingredient, we have basically a whole bag or about 9 ounces of the organic protein greens here. And then we have 1 lime. So very important to load up the backspin properly. So we're just going to go ahead and open this up. And first up, we're going to go ahead and add in the greens. We need to get the greens weighed down with the heavier ingredient on top. I did fit this many greens in the backspin to make a smoothie. Once again, link down below to that video. Even if it looks like it doesn't fit, we're going to cram it in there. Alright guys, so I got the greens crammed in there literally. Normally in a blender, you wouldn't really want to do that because if you cram something in a normal blender, the blade's going to spin around, the greens are not. With this, of course, we got the outer container that are rotating the opposite direction as the blade, and it should totally catch and get ground up. So on the cucumber, we're just going to slice it in half lengthwise once real quick and just slice it into pieces. I find that, you know, even though you don't need to cut it into small pieces, you know, the smaller pieces you cut into, the more effective the machine will work, although you could cut it into larger pieces. That being said, I like to cut it into smaller pieces so it actually fit more, you know, Tetris-y into the container. Once again, on the lemon, we'll basically just go ahead and cut that in half as well. Looks like all this will fit. Now, the caveat I want to give you guys when juicing in the backspin is that in the backspin instruction manual, it says that you have about a max of 1 pound of capacity for like vegetables and fruits and whatnot, right? So you don't really want to exceed that, because if you exceed that, number 1, it's not going to fit. Number 2, the machine maybe won't be able to work effectively. And if you overload it, it won't be able to, you know, do the rotation and drop the things in. I don't really know exactly. So these recipes I'm making today are, you know, around a pound, maybe a little more. I think this was maybe 600 grams or something like that. So let's go ahead and close it on up. And of course, we're going to go ahead and hit the vacuum button once. And I think this recipe, we're going to try for a low auto, which is about a 50-second blend. So first up, let's go ahead and press the low auto button. And we'll give you guys a close-up on the blender working while it's going. Alright, so it looks like a lot of the greens actually got ground up, but a 50-second cycle was not long enough, and actually after thinking about it, I probably should have put half the cucumbers below to turn into a liquid, then the greens, and then some of the cucumbers up on top. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just do the manual pulse to get it to blend the rest of the way. Alright guys, so basically I pulsed it a little bit and then I basically decided to do another 50-second auto cycle, and it worked perfectly. So let's go ahead and remove it and show you guys what we got. So once again, removing the outer lid, it's pretty much clean. Removing the inner lid, you guys can see we basically got like all the ground up greens and cucumber. We're going to go ahead and use a spatula and get this into my Alexexas bag. Alright, last up, let's go ahead and show you guys what it did to that mixture. Look at that, guys. It basically just tore it up. This is now actually a really nice liquidy mixture that could be easily squeezed out. It looks like the texture is pretty nice to me. So let's go ahead and get this into Alexa's juice bag. One of the secrets I found out is if you just kind of tap this, the whole inner chamber comes out. Makes it a lot easier. The outer chamber is fairly clean actually. And then I usually put my finger through the middle of the inner chamber to hold it. And then if you just kind of tap it, that'll help get everything out without the use of a spatula. Although at the end you may need to use a spatula to get the final remnants if you want to get it all. Alright guys, so we got that pretty clean. Next up, let's go ahead and squeeze out our green juice. Alright, as you guys can see, it's already draining juice out without me doing anything. And just applying a very little bit of pressure, you guys can see the juice is falling out. What I'll tell you guys is that this is the best way to make a green juice. I mean, you could buy a single auger horizontal juicer, and that's probably the second best way. But if you're doing something, you know, like with cucumbers with the greens, this is the best way. Why? Number one, you're doing it without the excess oxygen. This is done under vacuum, so the grinding is done without the excess oxygen, number one. Number two is that there are multiple blade hits on the produce, opening up the cell walls more effectively so that you could release more of the valuable phytonutrients. When you put it through an auger juicer, it basically goes around a spiral and it hits a few times and then gets ejected out, right? In this case, it's ground up more than that to a finer particle size so that more nutrients can come out. And in addition, unlike an auger juicer where you're exerting the force between the auger and the screen to press out the juice, the pulp always still comes out a bit wet. With this, in this case, you know, you could squeeze this bag super dry, more dry than a juicer could ever get it done unless you're using a $2,000 hydraulic press juicer. All right, guys, so I'm squeezing it pretty hard. You know, the last, I don't know, 10% of the squeezing gets is 80% of the strength and gets maybe like 10% of the juice out. And you know, you guys could stop whenever you would prefer to stop if you don't want to exert the most strength. Most of the juice comes out in the beginning. So now I'm going to show you guys the pulp that we got from the greens as well as a cucumber. Let's go ahead and move over this celery pulp from the previous juice. And let's go ahead and get this tapped down. All right, let's go ahead and pour this out and see what we got here. All right, guys, check it out. Uber impressive. Once again, this is drier pulp than any slow juicer would put out. Only juicer that would get it drier is like a cold press $2,000 juicer. But of course, you know, the THICKEST Backspin is much less than $2,000. All right, so we could take this pulp, squeeze it, and we're not squeezing any pulp out. It's like basically Play-Doh in my hands. So this has done quite a good job. And let's go ahead and check out our green juice. We have our celery juice there, and now we have a green juice right here. All right, let's get cleaned up a little bit. We're going to come back for the final juice, which is going to be a carrot apple juice. All right, guys, now we're back, and we're going to do the final juice today. Today, some of you guys have asked me to do carrots. I did try to do straight carrots off camera, and I found that it really didn't work super good. I found that some of the carrots, like the end part, didn't get cut up that well. So maybe if you use baby carrots or cut these a little bit lengthwise and then cut them into little pieces, it might work better. And of course, the most important thing is to not overload the machine. That being said, to be successful when juicing or vacuum juicing in the THICKEST Backspin, I always recommend you guys using a percentage of watery fruits or vegetables. So watery vegetables could be something like cucumber, bell peppers, tomatoes, right? Even celery. Watery fruits could be something like using like some apples or oranges. This is still going to blend up a lot better than the Vitamix, because even with a Vitamix, you would have to actually add the watery vegetables and some water. With this, you just need to use the watery vegetables, okay? So I guess let's go ahead and get this recipe started. It's basically 2 organic Fuji apples, 2 organic carrots, and a half of an organic lime. So once again, open up the Backspin. First step is we want to put the watery ingredients in first. So we're going to go ahead and cut that lime right in half, drop that in. Next up, we want to go ahead and put the apples in. So I'm just going to cut the apples once and twice. So we basically cut it into fourths. I'm going to remove the little stem there. And we're going to do the same thing with the other apple. Cut it in quarters. Look good. No mold on the inside where the seeds are. I don't mind putting seeds into my juices of the apples. I know some people don't like to do that. I rarely ever juice them, actually. So if you're doing it all the time, you might want to remove them. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this carrot lengthwise to make sure we get a good juice done. And then once I cut it lengthwise, I'm probably just going to cut it into a few larger pieces. All right, and then we're just going to go ahead and dunk this in. Once again, as I mentioned before, the capacity of the Backspin, according to THICKEST, is about 1 pound of vegetables. So, you know, this is not the vacuum blender you want to use or you want to make like bulk vacuum juicing. Of course, if you want to make a glass or 2 of juice a day and fill up a pound of vegetables and make the juice out of it, maybe a little bit more than a pound, it's going to work great as I'm showing you guys. All right. Next up, let's go ahead and put the outer top on, fully sealed in. Next up, let's close the lid. Next up, let's go ahead and hit the vacuum button once. And I think in this case, we'll hit the auto button so it runs about a 2-minute cycle. And we're going to let it go, and we're going to give you guys a close-up on what it looks like when it's blending up. Alright guys, so that appeared to work fairly well. Let's go ahead and open it up and see what we got. Once again, outer lid coming right up. Once again, pretty much clean. Inner lid, that's where we're going to get some carrot mush. So yeah, looks like this is pretty good and mushed up. I mean, I'm sure like well, it's actually, you know, the texture is pretty good actually. I'm quite impressed. I think this texture that's on the top of the lid is a little better than like a slow juicer would actually grind up. Maybe this is not quite as effective as maybe a pure juicer and the grinder in that, or like a two-stage hydraulic press juicer. But it's a pretty good grind here. All right, next up, let's see what's in the carafe. All right, how does that look to you guys? I mean, it looks pretty ground up to me. I'm not seeing any major large chunks. It's just a nice, rich carrot pulp. I think it's a pretty good thing that we actually had the apples in there to kind of give it a little bit of extra moisture. Once again, first up, we got to go ahead and pull off this blade. Careful with the blade. Only handle it by the top. Don't handle it by the sharp edges. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and clear out the inner chamber. So I think to do that, I like to just tip this upside down and then tap it, and then basically it's going to come out. So you guys can see here's the outer chamber. It's fairly clean. Just a quick rinse should do on that one. And the inner chamber, I hold it by the bottom, and I'll basically just try to tap this down and just kind of, oh, everything's coming out pretty easy this time. All right, now we got stuff stuck on the bottom. So I will end up using my spatula. I think that they should definitely include some kind of cool spatula with the backspin, because I think in most instances when you are making thick mixtures, whether that's a smoothie or whether that's like, you know, just making a carrot apple pate, which is basically just the blended up apples and carrots, you know, you will need a spatula because this is quite thick. I will say that the texture on this blend is pretty good. So I think what really matters is it's very important to blend enough. I think a 50-second cycle, maybe on some fruits might be good, but using something harder like the vegetables, you know, then you want to have a longer cycle time. Of course, you know, you're going to have to play with it to see what's going to work for your specific recipe that you're doing, right? I think in this case, just the regular auto button, and that's about a 2-minute cycle time, worked perfectly. All right, so we pretty much are pretty effective at getting all the carrot mash out of there. It's pretty clean now. So next up, let's get juicing. Let's see if I could juice these carrots and apples once it's been ground up with the backspin. As you guys can see, it is definitely dripping some juice. Not quite as drippy, but as soon as I apply even a little bit of pressure, you guys can see instantly that carrot, apple, lime juice coming right out. Now, I will tell you, when you are trying to vacuum juice something like root vegetables, such as beets, such as carrots, such as jicama, radishes, you know, it will be more firm to press because there's a lot more fiber content and less water content in carrots than, say, cucumbers or celery or even the leafy greens. So you're going to have a little bit more resistance, and it's going to be definitely a better workout. So for you guys that want a better workout, yeah, man, put some carrots in there, and you're going to have to squeeze even harder and get a lot more muscle strength. All right, guys, so I think I'm done squeezing out the juice from the carrots. Let's go ahead and check out the carrot apple lime juice we made. That's a really nice pure juice, guys. Pressed juice without the high cost of the press, all right? Next up, I want to go ahead and take out this pulp and show you guys what we got. All right, so to remind you guys, we got the celery pulp, the cucumber green pulp, and now we have the carrot apple pulp coming right out. And the cool thing about the Alexexas bag is that you don't need to wash it in between juices. You could do 3 different juices and then wash this bag only once at the end. That's going to also save you guys a bunch of time. So let's go ahead and dump out our carrot pulp. All right, guys, so there it is. There's a close-up on the pulps there. So you guys could see what it looks like. Once again, if I pick up that carrot apple pulp and squeeze it, I can't squeeze any juice out. It's basically like a Play-Doh. So, you know, this carrot pulp is drier than I would say any juicer, except, once again, that $2,000 hydraulic press style juicer that you can buy. That being said, the problems I see with that style machine, twofold. Number one, it grinds by actually adding oxygen in, although it may do a more efficient grind depending on how long you blend. Of course, that machine can do 100% straight carrots without any apples added, because you may need a little bit more liquid to get it to process. And of course, you can process more at one time. It's a continual process for the most part, versus this is like you got to put in about a pound or a bit more at a time. Of course, the press cloth with a larger pore size will get more nutrition into your glass than the hydraulic press style would. And in addition, your hands are fairly capable at squeezing out the pulp to be fairly dry, not quite as dry. There may still be a half ounce or an ounce left of juice in there, but for all practical purposes, this is the most yield you're going to get, you know, over any other similarly priced slow juicer. That being said, doing vacuum juicing does take some work, because you need to let the blender vacuum blend up the produce, maybe pre-cut a little bit, and then the hardest part is squeezing it out. But if you want to do that, you can have the highest quality juice without the high cost of a hydraulic press juicer, and actually even have a higher quality juice. So now I'm ready to do a taste test, guys. All right, first up, that carrot apple lime juice. Wow. That juice is amazing, guys. Have you ever had like a cold pressed juice? You guys know that mouthfeel you get. It's just like drinking like water, and it's pure. There's like no grit, no kind of like insoluble fiber in there. It's just really clean taste. Plus, of course, it's been done under vacuum, so they remove the oxygen, so you don't have the oxidative damage that can turn that carrot juice a little bit more brown faster and give it a little bit of an off flavor. Next up, we're going to go ahead and try our cucumber green juice. I expect this one to be strong. Wow, that lime really bounces out. You taste a lot of lime, and it's not super acid because the greens are alkaline that balances it out. This is a very pleasant juice. Maybe I put a quarter lime in there next time. Maybe if I added some ginger too, that would take it to the next level. But yeah, that's an excellent juice as well. The texture is excellent. Once again, we got the driest pulp, guys, on these juices. And finally, I did taste it before, but we'll taste that 100% straight celery. And you guys taste the minerals in that celery juice. So what did we learn in this episode? We learned that the THICKEST Backspin Vacuum Blender, yes, it can vacuum juice. Is it the ultimate vacuum blender for vacuum juicing? That's a good question. I mean, for the most part, it's going to work pretty good. You may need to, once again, make sure you have enough watery vegetables. Not as many watery vegetables as a traditional vacuum blender, but you still need to have some in there, especially for something like the carrots and root vegetables. I think that's very important. I think the downsides of this are, number one, that you have according to the instruction book, a maximum fill capacity of about 1 pound. I did put maybe about up to 1.5 pounds in some of these recipes in there, which appeared to work fine, but you probably would not want to load it up more than that, because if you did, then basically you may get like pulp buildup, and there may be like some items on the top that aren't folding in because you, once again, have overfilled it, and you're not going to get the best results. I think the grind on the carrots was actually quite impressive for a vacuum blender. I think if I did a similar recipe in a traditional vacuum blender, I could maybe get the grind a little bit finer, because I think I get a little more contact time. But of course, that also depends on how long you run the blender. If you run this blender even longer, you could get a better, maybe finer grind. But I'm going to do more side-by-side testing between this and a standalone vacuum blender such as the Dynapro that I will be doing in the future. So I think for those of you guys that want to basically do vacuum juicing and make a cup or two of juice and do like 1 batch or so in here, or 2, I think it's great. It's going to work wonderfully, right? I think for me, I'm really going to take the time and and do more batch juicing style, and I want to make more juice at once than just like 8 to 16 ounces. I want to make like 32 ounces at a time. And with the THICKEST Dynapro vacuum blender, right, you could make up to about a quart of juice at one time in one shot. Yes, you need to pre-cut smaller, but you have the pre-programmed buttons that make vacuum juicing easy on the THICKEST Dynapro. That's probably the best blender out there for vacuum juicing. Links down below to my original video on juicing in the THICKEST Dynapro. So for those of you guys that are considering a THICKEST Backspin Blender, you now learn that you can do vacuum juicing in it. Once again, the links down below to my video where I showed the thickest vacuum blended smoothies and how you can make a nut butter and frozen fruit sorbet with no tamper required. You guys can get this right now until the end of the month for 20% off. That's about $100 off, guys. You guys are going to save only until the end of May. I don't want you guys to miss out. There's only a few days left to get this amazing promotion, because after that, it's only going to be about $50 off or 10% off. So make sure, order it soon and use that coupon code DJ at THICKEST.com. The link is right down below this video to buy the THICKEST Backspin Blender that'll allow you to blend even the thickest ingredients, blend up your vegetables and fruits with no water added, just a little bit of fruit or watery vegetables, blend up the thickest smoothies, and even make nut butter and frozen fruit sorbet with no tamper required. So don't miss out. Use that coupon code DJ before the end of the month to save $100 off this amazing Backspin Blender. And of course, if you want to do vacuum juicing, you will also need to purchase the Alexexas Bags that are available at alexexasbags.com. This comes in a pack of 2. They have free shipping inside the United States. So use the best doggone nut milk and juice bags money can buy. I always tell you guys straight up and tell you guys like it is, and I want you guys to get the best products that make juicing the easiest as possible. And that's exactly what the Alexexas Bags do when you're doing your vacuum juicing. So if you guys enjoyed this episode learning how to make 3 different juice recipes today in the THICKEST Backspin and want more videos, me using the THICKEST Backspin to make other kind of crazy stuff, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that are still juicing, unfortunately using a traditional blender or even a high-speed juicer. This machine will make the highest quality juice even over and above the slow juicers out there. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you miss my new and upcoming episodes. I'll be coming every 5-7 days. You never know what new equipment, unboxing, what new comparisons I'll be doing to enhance your knowledge about appliances that allow you to process your fruits and vegetables and other plant foods in the best ways possible. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check our past episodes. Past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about the different equipment to allow you to juice and blend more effectively and retain more nutrition. Links down below also to my original unboxing of the THICKEST Backspin, as well as my video where I make the thickest smoothies ever in the THICKEST Backspin. I was definitely amazed at that. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for YouTube visitors.